Welcome to No Apologies on Beck, where we are unafraid to speak the truth. I'm your host, Rick Becker, our co-host, Lori Hintz.
Thank you very much for having me.
We have an intense show tonight.
It's pretty meaty. Let's put it that way. It's pretty meaty stuff. It's also a little intense in that it's frightening to me. It's not my favorite thing. So people may or may not have heard about the Great Reset. I don't think it's getting a lot of mainstream press. I think it's probably another one of those things that is sneaking up on us, and while things are going in the background, bad things are happening.
Yeah, and you know, I'll admit, when I was hearing about Great Reset, I was kind of ignoring it somewhat. Right. I was hearing a little bit, and I thought back to when Hillary Clinton was trying to do the reset with Russia, which was horribly embarrassing because the button didn't even actually say reset in Russian. It was the wrong word or something.
Right.
But it turns out this is a big deal, right. And I think we had a quote recently with Rahm Emanuel, or I don't know, but anyway, never let a good crisis go to waste.
Well, that's exactly what
Saul
this is.
Alinsky kind of said it first,
right.
And then Rahm Emanuel said it more recently. But what we have is the COVID pandemic, the COVID crisis, as the opportunity for globalists to jump on and say, this is why we need to do what it is we've been wanting to do for years and years now.
It's a crisis, and so they look at it as a great opportunity to be able to reset the economy, reset the globe, and change everything that we know as we know it, especially with capitalism.
Right. I think it was back in 2014, Prince Charles had said something about never before had there been a greater need to assemble a new order. I think it was a new world order. Right. Yes.
That should worry you, folks. That's not a good thing.
So the globalists, we have the pandemic as the presumptive motive right now, but you have to understand the desire for a great reset has occurred long before COVID
right.
was ever invented.
Right.
And the idea is that on a global order, there can be, I mean, as much as you think it might be bad to have central government power in D.C.
in just the United States. Yeah, right.
Yeah, imagine there being a world order. And so what they want to do is have central global solutions. Primarily what they've been looking at is for environmental concerns
right.
and social concerns. Imagine people in Brussels or wherever telling us what we have to do, what regulations we have to follow to achieve social justice as they see it.
Right.
To achieve environmental justice
right.
as they see it. And that's what we are looking at.
It's really disturbing.
With the Great Reset.
It is. The Great Reset agenda would have three main components. The first would steer the market toward fairer outcomes. Socialism?
Right. It goes to the core of all of the things that are wrong with central planning. Who determines what's fair?
Exactly.
And are you looking at only specifically outcomes? Are you looking at equality or equity?
Right.
I mean, you cannot make these decisions when you're far removed from the people being affected. It can't be done.
It's the ultimate in top-down versus ground up.
Absolutely.
So the second component of a Great Reset agenda would ensure that investments advance shared goals such as equality and sustainability. Now that's what they're talking about next. Would ensure that investments advance shared goals. Again, smacks of socialism, and they're just flat out saying it right here in the agenda.
Right. I mean, so if I want to invest in it doesn't even matter, a company that makes widgets, what world order am I supposed to appeal to say this advances social justice or this advances common good? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe people just want like those little spinners.
Right. They just want the widget.
Right. So if the inventor of the little thumb spinner thing had said, well, here's what I want to do, they would say, well, no, it doesn't advance the common good. It doesn't advance social justice. Who are they to say?
Right. Well, it just squashes capitalism. The third and final priority of the Great Reset agenda is to harness the innovations of the fourth industrial revolution to support the public good, especially by addressing health and social challenges. And this is where COVID comes into it. They decide we're going to harness the technology. Now, this is the real frightening part about this to me, because if you have globalists harnessing technology with regard to health, it's horrifying. That's very terrifying to me. I just don't want, them to have anything to do with me whatsoever.
Well, they were working on that. There was Agenda 21,
right,
which sounds like a crazy cuckoo,
Not so much
conspiracy
anymore.
thing. Then there's 2030? 2030. 2030. Mm-hmm. And now we have the Great Reset. There's such a motivation for these ultra elite rich people,
right,
to want to have some kind of world order. I just don't understand. The only thing I can understand is their motivation is either they're thoroughly confused on how the world works and how the economy works, but they actually believe it's a good thing, or they know that they are the current elite, and if you establish a new world order, then your progeny forevermore becomes part of that special club, part of that elite that tells other people what to do.
Exactly, and there's an elite class, and they get to promulgate that, and yeah, I do not. The more I read about the Great Reset in preparation for this segment, the more terrifying it was to me. I really did not like reading about it because it was frightening, all of the tentacles and all of the areas that they are hoping to bring into this central thing. And I don't know. It was just not not at all good.
I think this falls right in line with how I'm feeling about what we've been seeing going on with COVID. Because whatever is happening around the world, it's happening here.
Right.
And I have never seen such a unification of a response to anything.
Agreed.
It's centrally planned, globally
100%
planned. We even, I think we got away from it, but we were looking even at the word jab. I think that's what they use for inoculation or something, a needle poke in Great Britain. Suddenly, all of the pundits in the U.S. are saying jab. I mean, are you kidding me?
Wow. Now is not the time for a Great Reset. Now is an opportunity for them to have a Great Reset. The changes we have already seen in response to COVID-19 prove that a reset of our economic and social foundations is possible. See, this is
they're using it.
They just said it right there. Here's the crack in the door. Here's the crack in the dam, and we can just do it as we please. Now, to achieve a better outcome, the world must act jointly and swiftly to revamp all aspects of our societies and economies. This is frightening. It is not cool. And what can we do? I mean, it's being aware of it's the first thing.
This will be the last of the quotes for this section, but they say many reasons to pursue the Great Reset. The most urgent is COVID-19. The most urgent is whatever is happening now to expedite what you want.
Precisely.
The most urgent 2 years ago was something else, and 2 years before that was something else. They are doing exactly what we said, trying to maximize and leverage a crisis to get to their ends that they want, which is central planning to the nth degree, true globalism, where we don't have any control over our lives.
And utter and complete domination.
Absolutely.
And power.
We're going to talk about the Great Reset for one more segment. Stick with us. We will be back in just a couple minutes.
Beck News brings you real people and real news. Every weekday on KNDB, KNDM, and KRDK. Start your evening with the Dr. Duke Show at 4. Take a fresh look at current events with Ladies of Another View at 4:30. Go down the road with Joel at 5:30. Watch No Apologies with Becker at 9. Cap off your night with No Filter with Debbie at 10. Beck News. Real people, real news.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink from trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota. Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county.
Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
For the greatest selection and full menu offering, it's the Four Seasons Restaurant and Ice Cream Parlor in Garrison. Succulent sandwiches, big breakfasts served all day, and delicious desserts. Easy access in and out for campers and RVs. The Four Seasons Restaurant at the top of Main Street, Garrison.
Some things in life are hard. That's why banking shouldn't be. Cornerstone Bank.
Welcome back to No Apologies on Beck. We're going to hit segment 2 on the Great Reset. There's so much to talk about. We're basically kind of doing a superficial bypass. I believe it's likely we're going to be hitting some things that deal with this in the future, because I think that this is, as you said, it's got tentacles and it's going to keep on coming.
Yep, that is all true. And you get the feeling that it's not only been planned for a long time, but things are just starting to come into fruition for those who are doing the central planning on it too. And as you say, never let a crisis go to waste. And this of course, this pandemic has been so successful in drawing it out over almost a year at this point. And so now they're probably they are probably looking at the opportunity to further their goals, because look at how well this worked.
And one of the things that they're doing, again, just occurred to me now, they're getting people to fall in line, because if you think about how the stories, how the media has been reporting stories,
Yep.
anyone who's not following along with what they want, they demean, they demonize,
vilify,
and they undercut what efforts they're making. Sweden, for instance.
100%.
Back when the 2 Dakotas were starting to uptick, and before Bergen put his mandates in place, we were being chided as the outliers who were doing harm and were not responsible citizens and so forth. If you don't toe the line, you get ridiculed and demeaned, and that's what they're doing, again, on a global scale, to get people to fall in line.
Exactly.
And this is basically the test run, or the initial run, for this Great Reset that they've been wanting for years and years and years.
So many of the details of the Great Reset are not going to be available quite yet. However, they are going to be rolled out at the World Economic Forum as they meet in Davos next month. In January 2021, they're going to be meeting, and every time I hear the name Davos, more frightening things happen in Davos. Every single time they roll out these new things. The world needs massive new government programs and far-reaching policies comparable to those offered by American socialists such as Bernie Sanders and AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, in the Green New Deal plan. So this is their opportunity. They're grabbing it and they're going for it.
Well, what they're looking at, the bottom line goal is that they are looking for equity, social justice, and economic justice. They view capitalism as an evil, essentially.
Right.
They liken cronyism to capitalism, which it's not. And they recognize that capitalism is what made America what it is. What they're looking for is equity to bring America down, economically speaking, take the powerhouse down, which then raises them, relatively speaking. That's the big goal, in my mind, why a lot of these other countries are wanting to do this.
So the big story is always income inequality, and that's their story, but what they're doing is absolutely just decimating the American way of life and get their end goals. So it's horrible. So I was a little disturbed when I started reading about something called the Global Shapers Program. The Global Shapers Program is frightening. It was involved in some of the climate strikes of 2019, and more than 1,300 of these global shapers have already been trained by the Climate Reality Project. These are activist youth that they have trained to do their bidding in this. They've already been trained by the Climate Reality Project, which is a highly influential and well-funded climate activist organization, and it is run by none other than former Vice President Al Gore, who serves on the World Economic Forum's Board of Trustees. So he's got his little army of 1,300 trained young activists that they are going to deploy. And that, to me, is terrifying. That just does not sound like a really good idea.
Right.
I know I realize that in education, young minds of mush are being moved in a direction. But the fact that they're training them for specific things like this does not sound good to me.
No. Another consideration that occurred to me, I'm just like totally off the cuff here.
That's all right.
I think that the lines we're seeing drawn with COVID and the response to things like mandates and the shrillness with how we are having discourse,
Right.
I think that those lines, we're going to see those over and over and over as these types of things. When COVID is gone, there's going to be something else. And there are going to be the people that say we need to listen to authority.
The overlords.
And,
Right?
right.
Right? Well, it's true. Sheeple.
And it's being parsed out
Right.
into every state, into every nation, and you're going to have a large segment of the population agreeing and listening without questioning. And we're going to have these same lines, the civil discord that
Yep.
we have, we're going to be seeing it over and over and over. And I think the Great Reset, the people of that mindset are going to be the ones behind that.
I feel like we are being trained
Well,
to react certain ways, and they're
I
going
think
to
so.
use it in their favor, no question.
yeah. It's
So
very
who is
interesting.
in charge of the Great Reset? I mean, exactly. It's this global cabal of people, but it doesn't involve any major people in the United States. Are there people in the United States? I mean, obviously, I was talking about Al Gore being involved, but whom
Right.
else? I mean, the thing that's frightening to me is I don't know who's running it besides the world.
Well, have you heard the phrase the Illuminati?
Yes, and that's
So-
it.
Well, I think that it's powerful, rich, elitist people
Okay.
that are able to pull strings on a national level. And it doesn't matter if you're global or if you're city. You've got a club that you belong to. And when you're in a club that you strive to be in, you do whatever it takes to stay in the club.
Right.
And the more exclusive it is, the more you will do to stay in that exclusive club. And I think the folks that are thinking that this is a great idea, John Kerry and
Right.
and the others, I think that this defines them. This defines them.
Let's look at some more of the quotes with regard to the Great Resets here and what they have to say about it. There is no such thing as a national solution to a global crisis, they say. All countries must work together to end the pandemic and begin rebuilding economics. That reminds me of It Takes a Village. And one more, and this is the last one. I don't believe, and I think I know Joe Biden believes this, it's not enough to just rejoin Paris, the Paris Climate Accords for the United States. It's not enough for just to do the minimum of what Paris requires. Oh,
They wanna do so
I
much
think that was
more.
John Kerry saying that one too.
We're going to have to hit this again.
Yep.
Let's sign out for now. Stick with us. We've got a great guest coming up, Eugene Grainer. He is going to enlighten us.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
In southwestern and south central North Dakota, on any given day at any given moment, a Dakota Community Bank and Trust customer is logging in or signing on to do their online or mobile banking. We believe that community banking can blend both the past with down-home customer service in-house and the future with modern banking conveniences and technology for our customers anywhere, like here or here, all while honoring our long-standing tradition of community-first oriented banking here at Dakota Community Bank and Trust.
My wife was diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's. We talked about it and we kind of decided we'd be a little bit proactive and try to start making provisions. So we started looking here, and Eventide worked out to be pretty much the perfect answer. I guess I didn't expect it to be so nice. The staff here were terrific. We enjoy it.
They say when the going gets tough, the tough get going. At OK Tire, we're here to keep you going. From Firestone tires and replacements to retreads and even Firestone tracks, we have you covered. Our certified Firestone experts are ready to get you back up and running, no matter if you're on site or in the field, saving you time and money. OK Tire, we keep the tough going.
Now is the best time to plan for your 2021 farm equipment needs. North Dakota-based Summers Manufacturing is currently offering early order savings. Take advantage of big savings on North America's broadest tillage line, including the Super Kohler Samurai and the innovative BRT Renegade, as well as the best built, best backed land rollers in the industry. Talk to your Summers dealer today or go to summersmfg.com to learn more about early order savings available on all Summers equipment.
Welcome back to No Apologies with Becker on Beck, your after-hours oasis of sanity. I'm your host, Rick Becker, our co-host, Lori Hintz.
Thank you very much.
And between us, a fantastic guest, the president of Heartland Investor Services.
Good to be here.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're here because it ties right into some of the things we've been talking about. And just last night, even, we were talking about some of the stuff that was going on with the most recent bill, the relief bill, and how I think the comments we made were how this is really being hung around the necks of future generations.
Yes. And this is the part where most of the people gloss out. They know that it's bad. How can you spend more than you receive? Because everybody knows that we have a national debt. And they always keep thinking, well, somebody else is going to pay for this. It's not me. So that's why they just eliminate the thought of it. But here's the problem. This debt is going to come due someday. We've been running the bill up, and it comes due because we've been able to continue to use the Federal Reserve, which people need to remember. The Federal Reserve is not anything part of the federal government. It's no more federal than Federal Express. It is a private entity that's been designed by Congress back in 1913, passed in the dark of night on Christmas Eve, just like Obamacare. It was, and there was no Facebook, there was no Twitter, no social media to talk about it. It was just your standard newspapers. And they put the Federal Reserve through the act through at that time. And what this gave politicians through time was the ability to spend more than they received. The World War I was difficult with the war bonds, but with World War II, they sold war bonds, but the Federal Reserve could start slowly inventing money. And politicians through the decades have found it more easier and easier to reach out and use this money where deficit spending has become a normal. It's just, nobody thinks about it.
Oh, yes.
And to put things into perspective, billions aren't even the conversation anymore. It's trillions.
Right.
And people can't wrap their head around a trillion is. We, under George Bush George Bush II, when he was in, he had the excuse of the terrorist attack and revamping America. We set back He had about a $3 trillion deficit when he became president. When he left, he handed the baton to Obama with a $6 trillion deficit. Obama stepped in. He took that to $20 trillion.
Wow.
President Trump came in. He added $1 trillion a year in his first several years, but COVID was thrusted upon him, the China flu, and we were already sitting at $23 trillion at the beginning of this year. And now the bill, whenever this thing gets through, as President Trump is arguing with, it's $1.4 trillion for continuing government spending, an omnibus bill, and then at the same token, it's $900 billion for this COVID relief bill that they want. Well, there's another $2 trillion. That takes us to $30 trillion, $7 trillion under President Trump. What is a trillion?
Right.
Well, let me give you a little idea.
Nobody could even wrap their head around this.
Try this one.
Okay.
There's two ways. One, billion is a lot. A billion seconds ago was 1987.
Oh.
A trillion seconds ago was the year 30,000 BC. That's how it extrapolates from 1 billion, and then you have to get that to a trillion. Yeah. Now here's another way. A typical football team, is about $1 billion. You could buy 1,000 football teams. The problem is, there's only about, 30 of them or less?
Right.
But that's what $1 billion will buy. You could buy 1,000. So that's to kind of get your head around this trillion. Now we've got on the screen, this is I talked about $27 trillion. This was as of October 1st. And we were already bumped up to $28 trillion. If this current $27.8 trillion, as you can see on this chart, when this bill goes through with the $2.4 trillion, with the $900 billion plus the $1.4, we'll be at $30 trillion.
Wow.
And in the meantime, our economy has slowed. That's what the blue line shows there.
Got it.
And it's dropped to 19.5. But at $30 trillion, imagine, this is $90,000 per man, woman, and child. Or if you're a working adult over age 18, assuming you're working, 118,000, or income taxpayers are 225,000. We can't pay this. You won't pay this. Here's how everybody's going to pay for it. Every man, woman, and child, the elderly, the poor, will pay for this. Beyond taxes, beyond higher interest rates, it's called inflation. We are going to be stuck with inflation, and it takes time for this inflation to get going, because right now everybody's clammed up. I mean, yes, you have some people spending, trying to buy a new vehicle because it's 0%, but if there's not 0% behind it, nobody's buying anything. It's all about payments. And so inflation right now is still, as far as the Fed is concerned, not there. They're trying to push a string, trying to get that inflation to start, because the way they measure inflation, believe it or not, is without food or energy. Now, people would think, are you crazy? That's what I spend every day.
Right.
But see, it's not a durable good. It's expendable. And they say when it comes to commodities, they fluctuate. The supply fluctuates versus the demand, whereas we look at inflation as demand side. Right. Supply has a lot to do with food and energy. So they just kind of conveniently keep that out of the core inflation.
That was a change at some specific point, wasn't
it? Yes, that happened back in the 70s, back when we took us off the gold standard, when the Fed would have more control on the money supply.
I remember gas rationing.
Yes, and justifying it. So what they measure inflation on is called durable goods. Now, durable goods are consumables that aren't gone the day you buy it. Oil, food. They wear out over time, and they watch the inflation on durable goods like TVs. Well, you've got TVs, they keep improving them, and my God, you can buy a 75-inch TV, which just years ago was $7,000, now you can get it for $1,700. So no inflation there.
Right.
But the point is, cars, they're watching that, they watch furniture, and so durable goods is what they watch for inflation. It's not there yet. And so as we see the velocity of money, we call that, that's the flipping effect, where your employer pays you, and now he's paid you more, your income is going up, you're feeling better, COVID's not the issue anymore, and we have all this liquidity out there that starts to get moving. That's where inflation gets underway and hyperinflation takes over. Now, there's three ways of control of how this gets taken care of. One is the economy, the government that's run up this $30 trillion debt, let's start raising taxes to pay for that. Who's got the backbone for that?
Yeah.
Is there anybody out there, as far as the political power? Well, the Democrats would love to do that. And if we get to January and they capture those 2 Democrat seats, we can just count on it. Yeah. The taxes are going up. But how are they going to do it without actually voting on it? They're just going to rescind prior tax cuts. Well, we didn't raise taxes.
Sure.
We just ended these tax benefits for the billionaires and the millionaires and all those greedy rich people.
Yep, you nailed it. Yep.
But actually, it's everybody. Because if the taxes are going up, and let me ask you, whoever got a good job from a poor person?
Right.
You don't get a good paying job from a poor person. They come from people with means. Okay, if you're going to start raising the taxes on businesses, and of course corporations don't pay taxes either, they just pass that on to the buyers of their products. Okay, so you raise taxes. That's one way. The other way, and this is the way the Federal Reserve will slow the money down, is that's raise interest rates. Remember the quantitative easing that got underway under the Great Recession in 2008? They had quantitative easing 1, quantitative easing 2, and then there was a special name for it. It was the third one. Well, now it's quantitative easing forever. And so the catch is they tried to slow that down, raise interest rates just a little bit back in 2014. We have another chart up here on the screen. And this shows what the Federal Reserve, where they're standing at. Now, they're actually going to be over $8 trillion as we get towards the end of this year, and it'll hit $10 trillion. Because where is the U.S. government going to come up this $2.4 trillion? Well, it's not from the taxpayer today. The Federal Reserve will invent the money out of thin air. It's called fiat. That's what we are. Since sitting under Nixon, we became a fiat currency. If you look up fiat, it's where all the central banks have converted their currency to. It's called by decree. Okay, so the Federal Reserve will go to $10 trillion on their current balance sheet. Now, the U.S. government has a $30 trillion bill, but the Federal Reserve has $10 trillion they've put out there. Here's how they collect that money back: raising interest rates. Okay, as inflation starts taking off, they're supposed to get ahead of the yield curve. That's where, inflation in longer-term rates versus short-term rates. We have an inverted when the short-term rates are higher than long-term, or normal. When we have the longer rates, we want to see that higher than short-term rates. But as the Federal Reserve starts raising interest rates, that's supposed to slow the economy down. But the problem is we're dealing with $120 trillion that's actually out in the economy right now with durable goods, all that we have. The government's carrying this $30 trillion deficit. The balance sheet on the Federal Reserve is $10 trillion. Now, we're going to ask a question now. Wait just one second. Here's what happened the last time they mopped something up.
Okay.
Under the Carter administration,
yes,
they passed an economic relief bill because there was slow economic times under Carter. $20 billion was the relief bill. This one's $900 billion. Okay, yeah. $20 billion went through, plus the Federal Reserve had their hand in over another $100 billion. It actually came to $200 billion over that course. $200 billion, that's nothing today's standards.
Comparatively.
But back then, from 1980, when Volcker, it was probably set, Carter picked Volcker for the Federal Reserve, and then he was when Reagan came in, and they started cranking rates. And it was almost like Volcker wanted to destroy the Reagan administration. But the problem is when you take taxes from 70% to 35%, it unleashed an economic activity that just blew up.
Overrode anything that Volcker could have done.
But to mop up all that liquidity, it took interest rates to 18% on government debt. Private debt went over 20% in some cases.
Yeah.
That's how they brought that in. Okay, well, if nobody has the backbone like current Chairman Fed Powell, they don't have the backbone to start raising rates, because when you raise rates on interest, it also takes our government debt out.
Yes.
Well, if our government debt, which they are having the wisdom of doing long-term debt rather than short-term notes, so it does extend that out over time. But again, that bill's going to come due someday in the future when rates are higher. And so what's going to happen is we have our military budget, of course we have our welfare budget, these things we can't get away from, and then we have our interest on our debt, let alone the principal on our debt to pay for.
So it's a double whammy. Either way, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Because you're either going to have a greater percentage of your GDP or whatever paying off debt because of higher interest rates, but if you don't do it, then you're screwed because of
hyperinflation will come. So what's going to happen is you're going to eventually have higher taxes by just not continuing tax cuts, like they sunsetted the Bush tax cuts back from the 2001 day when they rolled the taxes back for a decade. Then Obama came in and sunsetted them. But that said, rolling forward, you're going to have the taxes, you're going to have interest rate, and you're still going to have inflation.
Yeah.
Because there's too much money out there to mop up.
Listen, I'm gonna cut you off there, because I think we could talk about this for another 6 hours.
I can go evenings.
But we're going to come back. We're going to do another segment. There's so much more to cover. You folks hang with us. We will be back in just a couple minutes.
Howdy folks, it's the County Line Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Bossin' breakfast and homemade soups. Fill your grill at our salad bar, sink your teeth into our famous County Line burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon rattling pie with a comb roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the County Line.
Since opening in Hebron in 1940, Dakota Community Bank and Trust has been your hometown bank. Our mission has been to provide modern banking convenience with old-fashioned hometown service. We've grown with the communities we serve through year-round events, countless sponsorships, and nearly 7,000 hours of volunteering each year. Learn more about our 80-year history at dakotacommunitybank.com.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
For the greatest selection and full menu offering, it's the Four Seasons Restaurant and Ice Cream Parlor in Garrison. Succulent sandwiches, big breakfasts served all day, and delicious desserts. Easy access in and out for campers and RVs. The Four Seasons Restaurant at the top of Main Street, Garrison.
Are you a thrill seeker, sightseer, or day tripper? The Ford Bronco Sport SUV is built for you. Four Bears Casino is giving away a 2021 Ford Bronco Sport loaded with a ton of interior space, safari-style roof, smooth suspension for any terrain, and easy-to-clean surfaces. Qualify now just by playing your favorite slots at Four Bears Casino. Double points on Sundays. Also get in on Super Senior Wednesdays, slot turning Thursdays, and hot seats on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Spin into Four Bears Casino and Lodge for chances to win.
Some things in life are hard. That's why banking shouldn't be. Cornerstone Bank.
Welcome back to No Apologies on Beck. We are continuing a second segment with the illustrious Gene Grainer, president of Heartland Investor Services. We're talking all about the craziness going on in the country, how inflation is apparently a foregone conclusion. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
And how much.
And so when? Answer that question.
Okay. The last segment, we were talking about velocity of money. And that's when we start to get this inflation, and the threat of hyperinflation, and the Federal Reserve is supposed to be on top of that, with the yield curve, raising the rates in the short term. People don't realize the Federal Reserve, they do not control long-term rates like housing. That's done by the secondary market. They control the near-term rates, your 1 year, your 3 year, 5 year, that's where they control. But in regards to this inflation factor, it's that velocity of money. History says it's about 2 years out. But given the sheer size of it, that money we're dealing with, and how fast the economy can turn around, unless they can keep us in masks and restaurants closed, come back to closings next year and stall us out for another year. But the point is, once we get a clean bill of health, so to speak, pun intended, and we get this confidence back in the market and get this velocity money going, it could possibly be already in 2022. I don't see it yet in 2021, but it'll likely take into 2022. When that happens, if the Federal Reserve is too slow in raising rates back up, to where they, at least them charging the banks 3%. Right now, they charge banks almost nothing. The banks charge their money, their 4.5% typical loans. That's why there's a new bank going up on every corner. It seems like there's more banks than there are gas stations, where they have. And the reality is, we could be into 2022 when this starts to happen. If we have the wrong kind of administration that is against business and keeps business somewhat slower for the better cause, so to speak, that's how they could fight inflation a little longer. Like you talk about the Great Reset, okay? This has been something I've been thinking about over time that could throw off the timing for inflation, and Bitcoin has already exploded. Gold has yet to explode. We got a chart along with us here. Let's show the gold chart. in regards to what it's been doing. This is the dollar chart. That's okay. Let's stay right here for the moment. This is the U.S. dollar monthly chart. You can see back in 2000, last time it was considerably higher. That's when Greenspan talked about the rational exuberance, and he tried to take on the stock market running away by penalizing Main Street, and he raised interest rates 14 times from 1998 to the year 2000, brought on the recession that Bill Clinton handed to George Bush, and George Bush never complained about it as Obama complained about whatever he was handed. But at the same token, 2000 came in. People forget, oil was $11 a barrel. The dollar was so strong. Farmers were struggling in 2000. Wheat was $3. Corn was $1.60. Soybeans were $4. Oil was $11 a barrel in the year 2000 because the dollar was so strong. Then the dollar, as you can see, went into this one-decade collapse, dropped into 2008 and went sideways to 2010. Now stay looking at this chart. I want you to notice that dollar drop from the year 2000 to 2010. North Dakota did very well in that. That's because, and it wasn't, I am a conservative by nature, but I wouldn't call it the Republican way that did that. It was the US dollar imploding, elevating the price of oil and elevating the price of ag prices that exploded in North Dakota and gave us our time window when North Dakota had a long, prosperous run. So now the dollar, as you can see that orange line on that chart, there was a trend line as the dollar had firmed up because the Fed was raising interest rates. They started in 2015 and started raising them through 2017, but by 2018, that came to an end as things were kind of floundering a bit. And so now the dollar, as you can see, is breaking this upward momentum. We call it a trend line for those that don't understand. It's starting to break down now. And that implies too much debt versus our what we're spending, what's going on. The money velocity is not there yet, but we have a gold chart here. Now gold doesn't look anything like Bitcoin, but gold this year in 2020 did come up and make a new high, reflecting its concern with the spending that's going on. But it has not gone hyper yet. That's because it doesn't know who's the president coming in here. Are we going to have President Biden with a majority Senate and a majority Congress where we can start these New Deal programs with the green energy and such? That'll be spending unleashed, on cocaine, so to speak, for lack of a better terminology.
Right. On speed.
It's kind of like that sugar in a stick. We called that crack in a stick when we were kids. But the point is, that's when that the gold market will start exploding. Now, Bitcoin, the blockchains, have kind of taken the place of gold because gold is somewhat manipulated. Gold, there's the banking conglomerates, through fractional lending, they sell more gold than there is physically out there on the futures. The same thing with silver. There's more that is sold versus than can be delivered.
Wow.
So it is kind of a manipulated commodity in a way, and that's why gold's been slow to respond to the times, and Bitcoin's been taking off. But as we go forward in time, the argument will be, if we have a Democratic-controlled Senate and House and President, they're not friendly to business.
Right.
And it takes business, and I've said before, you don't get a great job from a poor person. Well, it might be great, but you don't get a great paying job from a poor person. It takes a successful entrepreneur to have a successful business that prospers its employees and takes its employees along with it. That's how you start getting this velocity of money as the total economy starts to feel this. That's where the inflation kicks in. Now, if the current administration gets its way and it wants to penalize those that are productive in society and lift those up that are unproductive, that's a problem. That's where the economy will languish. So that's what could throw off the timing of this thing. But if we can keep America as it is, great, and always overcoming whatever obstacles are thrown at it, I think we will start seeing this inflation in 2022.
What can we tell people to do to protect themselves? So you talked about gold, and you talked about Bitcoin a little bit.
Well, it comes to real assets. Real assets always is where you want to be. That's why farmland has been great. Apartment complexes, wherever you can put your money in your home, owning your home. Don't live in an apartment. Of course, apartment owners don't want me to say that. Own a home, because that has value that goes up when your currency is debased. But most people can't even do that. If your life is such, you can buy fraction amounts of chain currencies, whether your favorites, lithium, Bitcoin. Those are ways of doing it. If I only got $100 this month, well, put that $100 into those things. You can't buy fractional gold. When it comes to buying gold and silver, buy the coins like American Eagles or Canadian Maple Leafs when it comes to gold.
No GLD for you.
Yeah, no, the real deal. The thing is, when it comes to, let's look at Venezuela for a moment.
Well,
Venezuela.
last 30 seconds.
Okay, in the 70s, they were as good as the United States. It was a great country. It took them 40 years to take that country down with socialism. That's how fast. And everybody in Venezuela is almost a millionaire.
Yep.
Because their money's worthless. You're walking around there. So you could be a millionaire someday.
Weimar, Germany.
Yeah, exactly. Weimar, exactly. That's the way they went.
Yep.
They were millionaires in the end.
Excellent,
So,
excellent
Absolutely
information and great tips too. So thank you so much for
Always,
coming on.
yes.
We
Yeah.
appreciate it.
It's fun.
Definitely having you on is a great time. So much to learn. We are going to have you on again if you're
I
willing.
look forward to it. Yes, it's
Awesome.
fun.
All right. Thank you, Gene. Okay, hang with us, folks. Next, we're going to talk about mailbag. Mailbag.
That's Milton Friedman. I was looking for that.
Howdy, folks. It's a Caneline Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Boss and Breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at our salad bar. Sink your teeth into our famous Caneline burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon rattling pie with a calm roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the game. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county. Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink from trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
My wife was diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's. We talked about it and we kind of decided we'd be a little bit proactive and try to start making provisions. So we started looking here, and Eventide worked out to be pretty much the perfect answer. I guess I didn't expect it to be so nice. The staff here are terrific. We enjoy it.
They say when the going gets tough, the tough get going. At OK Tire, we're here to keep you going. From Firestone tires and replacements to retreads and even Firestone tracks, we have you covered. Our certified Firestone experts are ready to get you back up and running, no matter if you're on site or in the field, saving you time and money. OK Tire, we keep the tough going.
Now is the best time to plan for your 2021 farm equipment needs. North Dakota-based Summers Manufacturing is currently offering early order savings. Take advantage of big savings on North America's broadest tillage line, including the Super Kohler Samurai and the innovative BRT Renegade, as well as the best built, best backed land rollers in the industry. Talk to your Summers dealer today or go to summersmfg.com to learn more about early order savings available on all Summers equipment.
Welcome back to No Apologies on Beck, and Merry Christmas. We're back for our final segment.
Well, before Christmas
Our
anyway.
final segment before Christmas.
So we'll have some best of shows. You'll love that too. It'll be really fun for you. So we're going to do mailbag today, and we're going back to Facebook. Yeah, we have to do that. We have to do jazz hands when we do
I gotta
mailbag.
find Blue's Clues and watch it so I know how to do
Mailbag. Okay, so we're starting with something from Facebook, and this is just we had a guest on named Kendi Chase, and so Jody writes and she says on Facebook, "You are awesome, Kendi. I feel that fire also, but not quite sure how to direct." And I thought that was really interesting, in that, you know what, we could probably direct you. Maybe you just need to go to Freedom Defenders on Facebook, and you can get yourself all fired up, and then you can also get your feet on the ground and do some things, Jody. So that is my suggestion to you. You can contact Kendi very easily on her Freedom Defenders page if you're not already on there.
Kendi was a nice, approachable guest that I think was inspiring to a lot of people.
Exactly. She was inspiring to me in that she just started out by kind of deciding, all right, I need to act rather than just talk. I don't want to just be a keyboard warrior anymore. I want to get out there. So yay for Kendi. She just did such a marvelous job of getting people motivated. So, all right, our next one you get to do. This is all attaboys, and it's all attaboys about Dr. Rick Becker.
Oh, wait, you want me to toot my own horn?
Well, do you want me to read them for you?
Yes, please.
I guess I could do that.
Okay, it's let's see.
I love this.
We've got Casey Weiland. Agree 100%. 100%. Thank you for sharing. Sheila Miller. Good job, Mr. Becker. Ellie Splonskowski. Thank you, Rick Becker, for standing up. That was one of the best rants I heard in a long time. I wonder which one she was referring to.
I'm sure it was the big epic rant that you did about closings. That was
Closings.
really
Yeah, I get fired up a little bit. Danielle Hudson-Beeler, well said. Very pithy, Danielle. Very pithy. I like that. Well said. Why waste syllables when you don't need them? So, thank you, ladies.
I like it just because the bottom line. Well, the bottom line is that when you do a rant and you go and you talk about what's actually going on in the city, people can relate to that, Rick. That's why it's so great. And you just do a marvelous job of articulating what the problem is, how simple the solution is, and I think people appreciate that. They're obviously showing that on Facebook because they're showing their appreciation.
The solution is almost always government, stay the hell out of my way. I'll be fine without you.
That's exactly right. And our final one of mailbag tonight is just perfect. So, fun fact about this, I actually, before I had a child, my husband and I, before we had kids, Toy Story was out, and we bought a Buzz Lightyear toy for ourselves before we even had children. Huh. And we loved Toy Story. It was a big deal for us. So I love this. Now, I think Gail was probably trying to imply that we're not very intelligent in what we are saying on this program because yes, I think she was basically trying to say there seems to be no intelligence in what you all are saying on this No Apologies program.
No.
But
if Gail thought that, she would have given a reasonable, thought-out argument explaining why she thinks we're not intelligent.
She gave us a gift.
She wouldn't have just put up a gift. No. No. Come on.
I do love me some Buzz Lightyear. I really do. And I have always loved the Toy Story movies. I was actually on a plane not long ago and watched Toy Story 4 because I'm just nerdy that way.
4.
I didn't even realize there was 4 until it was a choice. So I really liked it.
Did you ever watch the Land Before Time movies with your kids?
I did not.
The
I know
dinosaurs,
of them. The dinosaurs,
Yeah. Well, it was, I don't know, they have like probably 60 now. Land Before Time, 60. But like the first 3, I think, I watched with the kids over and over and over and over and over. Yeah. Well.
Okay.
Davos.
Yes.
I was just going to bring up, you talked about Davos is kind of scary because all of the Illuminati like to meet there.
Correct.
I was in Davos.
Oh, you were?
Mm-hmm. Not because I'm elite or Illuminati.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yes. But in medical school, I had the chance to do some electives. And so rather than take vacation, I did one elective in Jamaica, one elective in Switzerland. And the one in Switzerland, I could go, it's a lot of details. But anyway, what it came down to is that I had the opportunity to go to Davos, which is a very well-known skiing place, and they have very high-end orthopedic surgeons there because of the high-end skiing place. So I went there for kind of an orthopedic surgery weekend. Really, it was for skiing. It is a phenomenal place. The folks are a little hoity. It's not the same as going to Huff Hills. It's close. It's close. It's not quite the same, but I was a little bit out of my element. But it is a beautiful place. Great skiing. Amazing.
Well, I have never been to Davos. All I know about it is every time people are meeting in Davos, bad things are happening. So that is my only reference to that, too. I get worried about it. If they're meeting in Davos, they're doing things.
You know, another bad place where things happen is Jekyll Island.
I've never heard of
Jekyll
Island.
Jekyll Island. So our guest, Eugene Grainer, had talked about when the Fed met, or the people to create the Fed met in 1913. They met on Jekyll Island. Now, if that's not foreboding.
Like Hyde and Jekyll, like Jekyll and Hyde, Jekyll Island?
Sure, why not? But it is Jekyll Island, and so that's where they met, and now we have the monster called the Fed. Yes. So I like these recaps when we're a little light on mail and we're just trying to make up time.
The thing
it's amazing
is,
what we
the
can
thing
come up
with mail is we have our, you know, you can tell us what you think on Facebook. You can see it up on the screen there too. We also have an email. We have Twitter. You can find us. I'm hearing YouTube channel soon, so maybe we'll be sharing things on there as well. But I would love it if people would email us at the email address. There's the email address right there, noapologies@becknews.com, and we will feature that in an upcoming mailbag because I have a feeling there's some messages in there that we have not
You know what?
yet
I'm going
seen.
to pose a challenge.
Okay.
I'm off the cuff.
All right.
This whole last night, tonight, I'm just Mr. Off the Cuff. If you disagree with what Lori and I are talking about, if you think that we are spouting a bunch of baloney, I want you to post or I want you to email something that lays out why you think that lays out something coherent, that has some logic to it, anything reasonable, anything at all.
Not a GIF.
I challenge you to do it, and we're going to have you on as a guest.
I love that idea.
I want to give you the opportunity to come on set and show everybody what fools we are. We'll have an amicable conversation, but I will give you your 15 minutes. Actually, it'll probably be 10, one segment, and make your case for why we're wrong. And I'd love to do that. I'd love
I like
to have
that
you
idea
on.
too. Before we go, let me just say from our family and Rick's family and all of the Beck family, we would like to wish you and all of yours a very Merry Christmas and not Happy New Year. We'll be back after Christmas with some more information for you. But please have a great, safe, and wonderful holiday with your families close.
Absolutely. You guys take care.
Okay, post-Christmas, when we come back, we'll be giving you some updates on COVID funding, things that are going on with Burgum's mandates, and we'll just kind of recap what's happened over the holidays because it'll be interesting to see if anything changes.
Yeah. Stick with the Beck channel here. You're going to see No Filter with Debbie. Nothing you don't want to miss there.
Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Beck News brings you real people and real news. Every weekday on KNDB, KNDM, and KRDK. Start your evening with the Dr. Duke Show at 4. Take a fresh look at current events with Ladies of Another View at 4:30. Go down the road with Joel at 5:30. Watch No Apologies with Becker at 9. Cap off your night with No Filter with Debbie at 10. Beck News. Real people, real news.